best piece of advice given to you in the broadcast industry. Thanks, Jess. This is probably the golden nugget that I've shared with so many people since I learnt it. I think it was 2022, working with Wayne Suter in the VFL space. Wayne spent decades working in the Seven Network and in the camera space and doing some wonderful things there, producing, and he knows how everything rolls. He knows what you can see. He knows what you can't see. So that piece of advice that he gave to me, which has just changed the way that I perceive broadcasting, was we can see on camera, and this is for a TV audience. So you might be working off one camera, you might be working off two. You're going to get a close-up, you're going to get a wide, but the wide's not going to be wide enough to see everything, okay? So you're watching, think about it next time you watch sport, particularly when you've got that dual cam set up. You get that really good close-up shot, and then you have that wide shot that captures just a little bit more. He said, well, we can see what we can see. Tell us what we can't see. So what I've learned to do now as a broadcaster, whether it's basketball, whether it's, it could be cricket, AFL, wherever it is that you've got space that you can look to the left or you can look to the right. If you know that you've got maybe a second where the ball is going to remain stationary, and you've watched a lot of sport, you know that the camera is going to be panned on that, whether it's a close-up or a wide, just use that second to spend 50 to 60 meters down the field. Get a look, and I'll refer to this to AFL, but I've seen it in basketball as well, because you want to look at where there's a bit of a transition happening. So you want to see if there's a 2-on-1, there's a 1-on-1, there's a loose player sitting in a hole, maybe a kick behind the play. So you want to be looking at some of that stuff, and you can gather that in 1 second. I've been able to predict great marks before they've happened. There was a game this year, so the game in 2023 in the VFL, and Mitch Cox from Williamstown in the VFL over at Springfield, he was able to take a mark. His teammate had the ball on center wing. I knew the camera was there, focused square on him, and I could see him running in the space, probably sort of 30 to 40 meters, taking that space. And so the ball went in the air, and I just watched him like a hawk. He saw to the heavens. I knew that he was going to take the mark because the space was there for him to do it. He ended up taking a real incredible mark, a specky, and it was one of the best plays I've seen this year. But just that 1 second, I gathered that in 1 second that he was 30 meters out, 30 to 40 in that spot. The play was 50 meters away from him, where the kicker was. And the ball went up that space, he took the mark. So use that time when the ball is moving, even from one end of the ground to the other. See if there's a couple of defenders that are filling holes, because that might dictate what you see on camera. It's a fine example. And I'll have to use the AFL example on this one here. So I do apologize, but it might even impact soccer, might even impact basketball. But if you've got the camera shot in front of you, you think of why the play, if a player's trying to go forward and then they stop and then they may have to concede ground. You want to know why. Quite often in that case there, if you're there live at the ground and you can see that happening, you make the comment, look, he or she, they can't go down the line, they can't go down the wing because there's 3 defenders against one of their teammates. So they have to adjust. And so when you're watching TV, that's just something that really comes to mind of like, why aren't they going down there? Is there a mismatch? Is the person in the ruck filling that hole that's going to make it too challenging? Is there no one forward of the ball? If you drop that in as your comment, even as a play-by-play, or even as a special comment, so if you can quickly jump in and take that, that can make the team sound absolutely awesome. So that's the best piece of advice. I watched a bit of basketball recently, and that's something that I did when the ball was transitioning from one end of the court to the other. I'm sort of thinking in my mind going, well, they have to slow it down here because the other team have got they've defended really well. They've got a 3-2 set up underneath the basket, and there's only one of the attacking team's players in that space. So they've got to slow it down and they've got to do it. Or sometimes the ball moves really quickly and you know that it could be a 2-on-1 in your favor. So they're going to pass it around and maneuver the way around their one defender under the basket. So that even applies to basketball too. So take that in mind. We can see what we can see, but just use that second, use that half a second. Maybe you might have 2 seconds if somebody goes to ground. Look down the field, look down the court, see what's there, and paint the picture what's there too. So that's the best piece of advice I've given. And now sometimes when I go to sporting events, as I mentioned about the basketball, if I haven't got the cans on, I spend a lot more time watching what's happening in the forward half of the ground as opposed to what the defending team is doing the defending half of the ground, because I'm predicting, even in my mind, what might be happening. And these are the things I probably be saying if I had a pair of cans on my head. So there you go. Very valuable piece of advice there from Wayne, and everyone that I've spoken to since then about commentary that I've had the pleasure of giving some advice from. That's the first thing I say.